Hello! So, been a real mixed bag this last couple of weeks from the group. Some of you are on huge highs, making really significant breakthroughs, but for others, the whole lockdown setup process is causing some real challenges. So, hang in there. These things will ebb and flow a little bit. So, for the people on the high, I'm sure there'll be points where you come down a little bit, and for people who are on the low, there'll be times when you come back up. I'm in my happy place today, so the sun is shining, the birds are singing, I'm outside, which really helps me with my whole outlook on life. Yesterday it was absolutely pouring down, but today it's a beautiful day, so I'm out to make my video. Right, today's themes, I'm going to go through a couple of items, taking notes as normal, because there's quite a lot here to cover. So a couple of the themes I'm going to look at is context and zoom. I'll explain what these are as we go through. Process, and goals slash direction, and purpose and growth. So for each of you, you're in a slightly different place. What I'm going to talk through is quite athlete specific. So as we go on to some homework exercise, you get to choose what's most relevant for you. You can do all three of the exercises, or you can just pick one. Probably one is sufficient for most of you to go at the level you want to get most gains from. So the first area or topic is context and zoom. Last week I sent you a couple of clips of a painting, and that painting was quite an interesting technology exercise, but also had a real theme behind it, and that was the level of zoom. So as you consider elements of your training plan, your life, the activities you're doing, you can look at it at various levels of zoom. So sometimes you can be incredibly detail focused and right in amongst the minutiae of detail. So what pace should I do an individual rep at for a run session, within plus or minus a few watts on a turbo session for a particular rep. So that's obviously an incredibly fine-grained element of detail. Sometimes that's important. Often it's not. Often just being in the ballpark is sufficient. And actually you want to zoom out quite a lot to look at the big picture. So as we come on to the homework, this is one of the concepts I want you to think about, is as you focus your attention on elements of your training, the process around it, the lifestyle you have with it, just step back every so often, step to one side and look at your own thinking and consider what level of zoom are you operating at. Are you in amongst the fine-grained detail, which sometimes is important and sometimes you want to nail really, really specifically? So that from my post was talking about look after the pennies, the pounds will look after themselves. So look at the small things, because the big things you'll cover automatically. Make sure you look at the detail and have that attention to detail. The opposite being, should I step back at this point in time and consider the overall direction that I'm going, the overall, the bigger picture item outside of a rep, outside of a single session, outside of the week, maybe looking at your season, maybe looking at the big events that you want to do, maybe looking at multi-year as well and considering what you might be focused on for a 2-year, 3-year goal. Maybe you're moving up in distance, maybe you want to become more performant at the distance in the events you're doing, maybe you want to change direction with the events that you're doing and focus more exclusively on duathlon, more exclusively on swim, run. You can long distance cycles. Maybe you want to become more of an adventurer and do outdoor adventures and take on long distance challenges. So you can go in multiple directions and lay the foundation year on year. The other element I want to talk to you about is purpose and growth. One of the exercises is considering, why am I doing this? And you can combine that with the zoom element. So have a think when you're looking at your training. Take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, go to some quiet space, wherever that is for you, whether that's out on a run and you just stop and walk and consider for a while, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's a quiet period at the end of the day, whether it's outside, whether it's in the shower, wherever you find your best thinking time. Consider why you're participating and doing the activities that you do, and are you seeing, do you feel the purpose behind it? And do you feel a sense of growth around it? And how important is that growth for you? For most people, it's a fairly fundamental that they want to have some element of change. Too much change becomes unnerving and you don't feel any stability. Too stable and predictable and you feel stagnant. Consider where you are in that curve, that sweet spot. Are you at the right point of growth and stretch, or are you feeling a little bit stagnant? And if you are, that takes us on to the third area, which is process and goals. They're similar but slightly different. So process is about the sequence of steps that you go through, the routine that you're going through. Um, the goals are where, or the direction is where you want to go with those processes, where you expect it to take you. So it could be towards an event, it could be to increase your distance, it could be to improve a time for your 5K, it could be to change your FTP on your turbo. The process is what's going to take you there. These two ideally marry together. So the process you're using takes you to the goals or the outcomes that you're wanting to get towards, right? So that's the overall themes that I want you to have in mind. As I said, this is very athlete specific. So I've got 3 elements of homework based on feedback and interaction I've had with each of you over the last fortnight or so. So homework number 1, one of you is already underway with this. So I'm asking the group to consider whether you'd like to do it. So at the smaller level, at the zoom in, at the detail, I'd like you to consider creating your perfect day. So have a think what your priorities are in the day. Put a timetable to it. For example, I wake up at X and put the time you're going to be up and the sequence of things that you want to do associated with that time. Essentially, it's looking at where your priorities are and how you can best fit them into your day. Including that, for most people, you need some buffer such that as things come in, you expect some things to come in, but as they come in and you don't yet know what they are, you've got some flex within that structure to absorb these unknowns that will come in so that your day still holds true. The best way to do it is to look at your priorities, look at your must-haves, put down some anchor times, and then have some buffer around that. The other exercise you can do in similar theme is consider your perfect week. So have a think about your week and put in elements and priorities that you want to achieve each day, and ideally, to make it more specific so it's more likely to happen, a time in that day that you're going to do these things. So it could be at 8 a.m. I'm going to do this turbo. At 6 o'clock I'm going to do this yoga session. It could be more than just your training, because for most of you, you have a fairly structured training outline, which stays fairly consistent. For some of you, you move days quite significantly to allow it to fit. This exercise is probably more applicable to those who make things move around, or for those individuals who feel that there are certain things that they're not doing, they're not able to achieve, that the process isn't quite nailed for them, it's not quite working for them, that they come to the end of the day or the end of the week thinking, I had this stuff that I wanted to get through, I'm feeling unfulfilled and I'm feeling like I'm not making the process work and I'm not getting the growth and the change that I would like. Okay, so that's homework exercise 1. You can choose to do that. Homework exercise 2 is in line with the concept of growth and process. I'd like you to go through your Excel sheet and your Training Peaks account and sense check, you know, why you're doing the sessions, approximately what phase or the purpose of the block is, and how that fits with your overall goal, your A race, where you are in the season. So some of you are on quite specific areas such as race preparation and some logistics. Some of you are on building consistency and getting sufficient volume of sessions. Some of you are working through lifestyle changes. Some of you are working through the very vanilla train, adapt, recover, train, adapt, recover, and you're building in that consistency and steadily building fitness and conditioning levels. I want you to, for this exercise, to look at where your training is in that phasing and be able to explain why you're doing the training that you're doing, what it's going to do in terms of adaptation, or what its purpose is for. If you can't, that's absolutely fine. It's my fault. It's my challenge to make sure that I'm explaining the concepts that we're going through to you and to help you understand that and to go away with that sense of purpose, that sense of understanding about the training sessions that you're doing and where they fit at that level of zoom, at that level of context. Okay, so that was exercise 2. Exercise 3, should you choose to do it, is to listen to a podcast. So this was very specific around a question I had about training methodology. And the question was to do with Instagram. And it was asking some questions about an Instagram post that talked about the benefits of a certain session. Session benefits are very much in terms of the context that you consider them. There's a great podcast that I listened to yesterday from On Running, 2 US coaches who teach broadly track and also some cross country and long distance running. They're quite technical in some of what they explain. I think this session is quite accessible, and it really looks at how do you consider the type of training methodology that you use and the purpose for training sessions, especially how it fits together in a jigsaw and through a season. So as you take elements and you stress to get an adaptation across each of these different types of ways to train. It's a really good answer to quite a complex question. In one sense it's complex, in one sense it's simple. How do you stress the body to get the best from its adaptation? And the Instagram post was referencing certain benefits you get from interval or high intensity training. And it's thinking about that in the context of your overall training methodology. So I think it's about an hour long. You can probably listen to it at 1.5, 1.25 speed. So you'll be done in under an hour. But come away from that thinking, okay, here's various techniques to stress various elements of your body or of your training to get some form of adaptation. You can then apply that to exercise 2, which is where am I in a training season? Where am I in a training block? What is the stress that Scott's designed for me to undergo so that I get a certain type of adaptation or a certain type of skill build or a certain type of change? Each of the sessions is designed to sit inside of a training block, which is designed in itself to give you some form of change and improvement. Okay, so that's the 3 exercises. So let me run through them again. Design your perfect day, times, and what your priorities are. You can start with your priority list and then see where you can put them. You can do it with post-it notes. You can do it with a template with certain anchors that you must do through the day with your life. Or take the same principle and apply it to your perfect week. Second exercise is, if you want to do this one, look at what your training sessions are and your Excel sheet looks like in terms of the calendar view, and make sure you understand and explain back to myself in our next session why you're doing those. What is the purpose? What is the change you're looking for? And the third one is an information or a knowledge building exercise, which is to listen to a podcast and from that be able to articulate what it is that you've been able to get in terms of adaptation from sessions and for the future sessions, so we can have discussions about that kind of stress adaptation response. It's a lot in there. Any feedback, any questions, definitely give us a yell. I'm just shy of 15 minutes, so I'm going to wrap up now. Thanks for listening and best of luck with the homework. Take care. Bye.